Police have announced today they're investigating Andrew Mountbatten Windsor over potential sex crimes. Detectives are keen to speak to a woman who claims she was taken to the former Prince Andrew's home in Windsor for sexual purposes. Charlie.
And the man at the center of it, Prince Andrew, Duke of York, 10th in line to the throne, has said nothing. That is not a tabloid headline. That is the operational reality of where the British monarchy stands today. Think about what that image actually means. A centuries-old institution, one that has survived wars, abdications, and constitutional crises, is now being held hostage by one man's alleged behavior in a Windsor bedroom. The crown is not under attack from outside. It is rotting from within.
News that a woman who claims to have been taken to the former Prince Andrew's home in Windsor for sexual purposes is due to speak to police. This story, on a serious note, it won't go away. I fear for so much about the monarchy. This is appalling.
I agree, because I think that the question now becomes whether the monarchy looks morally serious or evasive.
Yeah.
Never Complain, Never Explain has worked wonders over the last few decades, but this is a case where people are demanding more,
And nobody at the top of that family is willing to pick up a scalpel. Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to Audit the System, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Now, let's establish the record. Detectives are seeking to interview a woman who alleges she was brought to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's home in Windsor for sexual purposes. This is an active police investigation, not a rumor, not a civil lawsuit that can be settled with a check and a confidentiality clause. A criminal probe. That distinction matters enormously, because here is the thing about civil settlements. They make problems disappear on paper. £12 million, paid to Virginia Giuffre in 2022, was structured specifically so that Andrew admitted nothing, denied nothing, and owed the public nothing. The palace called it a private matter. The story they assumed would dissolve.
The royal family's approach has always been it will go away. This is not going to go away. I have said it for months. He is going to go to prison.
It did not dissolve. The institution failed to protect itself. That is the operating conclusion here. Now a second investigation is circling, and the architecture of the first settlement, the careful legal language, the no admission clauses, means precisely nothing in a criminal context. You cannot settle your way out of a police interview. You cannot write a check to make a detective stop asking questions.
Well, first of all, I think you just made a great point that with these additional investigations going on, the odds of him actually going to jail are increasing by the second. I mean, there is the argument that the government, the government secrets, sharing government secrets to Epstein, charges might not hold up because technically there are all sorts of technical arguments about why that might not go through. And then here comes these new investigations circling. So
the institution failed to protect itself. Consider the timeline. Andrew sat down for a BBC interview, a public record you can find in its entirety on the BBC's own archive, in which he denied the core allegations against him, expressed no sympathy for victims of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network, and stated he had no recollection of ever meeting his accuser. The interview was supposed to close the chapter. It did the opposite. It became the single most damaging voluntary act of self-exposure in modern royal history. Then came the civil settlement. Then came the stripping of his military titles and royal patronages. Then came the quiet exit from Royal Lodge. Each step presented as containment. None of it contained anything.
Absolutely agree with you, but it's entitled behaviour, and every single person you talk to about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will tell you entitled, arrogant, completely dismissive of right and wrong. I don't know what's true, but it speaks for itself.
And now ask yourself this question, because this is the question that transforms this from a scandal into something far more serious. If the people responsible for protecting the institution knew from the beginning that Andrew's legal exposure was deepening, and they chose silence over accountability at every single turn, then what exactly were they protecting? Because it was not the crown, and it was certainly not the women involved. The institution failed to protect itself. The individuals who allegedly enabled Andrew's continued public role, the trade envoy appointment, the security detail, the funded lifestyle on a royal estate, are now finding their own decisions under scrutiny. Reports indicate that the late Queen pushed for Andrew to receive the UK Special Representative for International Trade and Investment role. Simultaneously, other sources suggest King Charles privately viewed that appointment as a serious mistake. Both things are being reported. Both cannot be fully true, and that contradiction is not accidental. It is the architecture of blame shifting in real time.
Well, I wanted to ask you, based on what you said to me originally, about how you feel like the Queen is just now being dragged into this. Were you not getting briefed? Because I've been briefed from the get-go that this was an inherited problem for King Charles, and the conversations have been: is this? Are the men in gray suits today throwing them under the bus, throwing the Queen's men in gray suits under the bus, throwing the Queen under the bus?
Yeah.
And I do think it was an inherited problem. I don't think that King Charles, I do think he wants to protect the monarchy, but I don't think he would have wanted to protect his brother to the extent his brother was protected.
But what you are watching is an institution attempting to rewrite its own institutional memory while an active criminal investigation is underway. That is not crisis management. That is a liability problem wearing a crown. Beatrice and Eugenie remain in the picture. Fergie remains adjacent to the story. The financial relationships between Andrew's immediate circle and his daughter's professional lives are questions that have not been answered in any public filing. They are outstanding. They are relevant. And they are being largely ignored while cameras focus on the main event, which brings us to the end game. Because here is what the evidence suggests when you lay it flat. Andrew has not been charged. He has not been arrested. But the investigative perimeter is tightening with each new development. The Epstein-adjacent exposure, the civil settlement, and now a fresh criminal inquiry represent three separate legal vectors converging on the same man. Any one of them individually might be managed. Together, they represent a closing argument. King Charles faces a decision that has no clean answer. Publicly distance himself from Andrew and risk being seen as abandoning a brother to satisfy public opinion. Continue funding Andrew's lifestyle quietly, and watch the institution pay the reputational price daily. The palace's traditional strategy, never complain, never explain, was designed for a different media environment, a different public tolerance, and a world before Virginia Giuffre's legal team existed. That strategy is now accelerant on an open fire.
I think this, at the very least, is going to mean a change in the royal family. I said it to you months ago. I think the only way, if this continues, for the slate to be wiped clean is for the king to fall on his sword, cite his personal illness, and allow Kate and William, right, to just start with a clean broom. Because if this continues, they'll all be dragged down. And I can see the monarchy and all those people, the Republicans who jump up and down, having a field day. Because what Andrew has done, and we still don't know the truth, is drag this family into the mire, supported, I have to say, by his mother and his brother. Not supported, but what, turn a blind eye? I don't know. It's appalling.
Go and read the public record of Virginia Giuffre v. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, filed in the Southern District of New York. Case number 21 CV06702. It is publicly available. Read the language of the settlement deed. Read what was and was not admitted. Then come back here and answer this in the comments. If that settlement was designed to end this story permanently, why are detectives still knocking on doors? If this breakdown of the evidence gave you something the headlines didn't, like this video, share it with someone who needs the full picture, subscribe to Audit the System, and turn on notifications, because when the next document drops, we will be here to follow it.